Hi, I'm Andy Blankenbuehler, and I'm the choreographer at Hamilton. The first step for me when I started working at Hamilton was I actually had to learn the piece because there was so much music and so many story points that I wanted to sort of identify the really high points and the points of transition and differentiate one battle from the next and one plot point from the next. Early in our process, I remember sitting with David Corrins and with Tommy, and we saw, we would see readings of the show, and the readings were so powerful. So in many ways, I saw the readings and wondered if I needed to choreograph it. Like, was it better just sitting on a chair and saying the words? And what we would always say to each other is, stay out of the way of the lyric. Like, we need to stay out of the way of the words. Like, you can't be jumping around and dancing around or people won't follow what's being said. So I always see choreography, but especially with Hamilton, as sort of an impressionistic painting where the surround of bodies has to inform what you're supposed to be looking at. Like in Impressionism, you look at one thing in focus and everything around it points to it. And that's what we do with our lyric. Because the show is about true and deep, deep emotion, the movement is often very strong and very wide and very low to the floor. And dancing with that intensity isn't very easy to sustain for almost 3 hours a night. Room Where It Happens, there's a couple peaks where things like hang out, like when Burr jumps off the table at the very end and the cast do this big sort of Fosse-esque, putting on the Ritz kind of step. Even though that step, again, is small and cramped, the energy of it just spills out. So I think those moments are really enjoyable for the cast, but they're really enjoyable for the audience. Because it's a lot of pressure for the audience to be leaning, what's gonna happen, that you have to give them moments of, and the rap battles, for example, do that really well. So when I finally start choreographing, what I do is I use my computer, I push the camera on, I just record everything I do in the studio. Here's a perfect example of just improvising. This is what would become Just Like My Country, I'm Young, Scrappy, and Hungry. You see, the steps aren't anything except for the pop, the timing of it. Just like my country, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry. The chin felt right, the pop felt right. This was probably the biggest night in Hamilton, which was a day that Lynn wrote a new bridge for Room Where It Happens, and I could not choreograph the number, and I pulled an all-nighter, and it was in this all-nighter that I kind of cracked the step. Skin in the Game is what we call the section, and as soon as I figured out that one section, the number just spilled out, and I just stayed up all night. So that's what this library is about. And again, what I'll do then is I'll take the clips of myself, the improvs of myself, then we'll meet with dancers, and with dancers, like that was the first improv step. Then now I'm with 3 dancers in the room, and that's the beginning of Just Like My Country, and we find the steps together. And oftentimes, it's actually a pantomime before it's a dance step. So I'll bring it to the dancers saying, this isn't the step, but the step feels like this. And those dancers often have so much better style than I have that they immediately make it look so much more heightened than I can make it. So that's sort of the ins and outs of it. And I like to go into rehearsal with the sequences like 60 to 70% finished. That's not to say that there's not flexibility, but I want enough structure and enough of my vision so that I can push them and lean forward and say, this is the direction we're going. Because I've found that casts, especially dancers, love when you say, this is our path of battle, let's go there. It might be wrong, but let's go this way first. And that's sort of how the whole Hamilton team worked. We said, let's go this way first, and we'll figure out if it works or not. The show is about learning what's most important in life to you and fighting for it with everything you have. And if your heart is true about it, then you're going to be on the right path.